Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Craig Burrell, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Navy is Commander Fiona Ewington. We warmly welcome the family of Flying Officer Owens McAlister Howden, whose story will be told shortly. We also warmly welcome players and staff of the Greater Western Sydney Giants, Group Captain Bruce Chandler, retired, representing the Air Force Association, and one recruit training unit from the Royal Australian Air Force based in Wagga Wagga, New South Wales. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by family, visitors to the memorial, and students on behalf of Hales School from Wembley Downs, Western Australia. If you are able, please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. Please be seated if you can do so. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn their loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the hearts of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 Australian men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Flying Officer Owens McAlister Howden. Owens Howden was born in Richmond, Victoria on the 27th of January 1913, the firstborn child of Owens and Eileen Howden. Following his education, Howden went on to work at the Numurkah branch of the Commercial Bank, where he was known as Buddy. He also joined the militia, gaining military experience while parading part-time with the 2nd Cavalry Division Signals. On the 11th of April 1940, Owens Howden married Ina Nelson. A few months later, on the 20th of June 1941, he enlisted in the Royal Australian Air Force. He began training, attending Air Observers School at Mount Gambier, South Australia, and Bombing and Gunnery School at West Sale, Victoria. While he was working towards becoming qualified as a navigator, a son, Adrian, was born on the 8th of October 1941. On the 28th of May 1942, Howden was appointed to a commission, receiving the rank of pilot officer. He was posted to Number 8 Squadron and promoted to flying officer. Number 8 Squadron was a bomber reconnaissance unit based at RAF Station Fairbairn in Canberra. By 1942, the squadron had been deployed to Singapore, where it saw action during the Malayan campaign before reforming at Canberra, equipped with DAP Beaufort aircraft as a medium and torpedo bomber squadron. The squadron practiced cross-country navigation, bombing and air-to-air gunnery around Canberra. On the 3rd of May 1943, Howden was the navigator of a Beaufort aircraft engaged on a test flight. At 10:50 a.m, the aircraft was about 2,000 feet above Canberra when smoke began issuing from the port engine, which had failed. The pilot attempted to make a forced landing, making a right-hand turn towards the aerodrome, and made a fast approach with flaps and wheels retracted. Halfway across the aerodrome, while just above the ground, the pilot attempted to take off again using the starboard engine. But with insufficient speed, the starboard engine took control, forcing the aircraft into a climbing turn to the left. The aircraft then stalled and crashed to the ground. 2 members of the crew extricated themselves from the wreck and began to search the burning aircraft. They climbed into the rear compartment of the burning fuselage and carried out the unconscious, but still living, Corporal Morris. After searching further, they discovered the body of Flying Officer Owens McAlister Howden and removed it before it could be incinerated. Sergeant Leslie Grist and the navigator, Flying Officer Owens McAlister Howden, were killed. The remaining 3 members of the crew survived, suffering slight injuries. A joint funeral was held for Grist and Howden 2 days later. Their bodies were interred in the Returned Soldiers section of Woden Cemetery. Survived by his grieving widow and young son, Flying Officer Owens McAlister Howden was 30 years old. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right among more than 40,000 Australians who died while serving in the Second World War. His photograph is displayed today by the Pool of Reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Flying Officer Owens McAlister Howden, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them. Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozieres or in the low scrub at Gallipoli with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the Director, staff and volunteers, we thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continuing support during the Memorial's development project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening.